She's eating boys. They make her really pretty and glowy, and her hair looks amazing.
Hello and welcome to the second Kill James Bond Halloween special.
Ooh.
I am Alice Caldwell-Kelly, joined as always by my friends Abigail Thorne and Devon.
Malice Caldwell-Kelly.
Yeah, spooky names. You can do spooky names if you want to. Just write in with the spooky names. Deathvan, and we're joined by YouTuber and actual elected official Mia Mulder.
Mia Scolder.
Yeah.
Yo.
No. It's Special Agent Mia Mulder working for the X-Files.
And that's
the
right.
Scariest thing of all, an elected official.
President of Sweden, Mia Mulder.
Soon.
Local government.
Municipal councillor.
Ooh.
The good kind of Nordic model.
Nice.
So
Classic.
the previous Halloween special, we watched Van Helsing, right? Which was chiefly notable for having a scene which Abby and I described as girls' night. We followed up on this. We've doubled down with an even more girls' night horror movie. We watched Jennifer's Body, and there's a problem immediately, right? Which is, in the course of watching this, both of my co-hosts and our guest just mentioned to me something with which I fundamentally disagree, but I'm outvoted. Abby, would you like to introduce very briefly what the conflict in this episode is going to be?
This film, listeners, is about 9/11 and the Iraq War.
No, it's
It
not.
is.
No, it's
It's
not. No, it's
about
not.
9/11.
It is.
It is.
It's about girls and female friendships and male violence, but also the secondary theme is 9/11.
Yeah. And the following war on terror and exploitation of the Middle East oil and natural resources. Yes.
What I hope to do over the course of the next hour and change is to convince at least one of you, and more importantly the listener, that this movie is not about 9/11. It references 9/11. It's aware of 9/11. It's
all about 9/11.
So Jennifer's Body. We begin with Jennifer, who is played by Megan Fox, looking kind of fucked up, gross teeth, like eating her own hair, watching TV in the dark. And we get a jump scare as something rustles outside. And what it is a woman, Amanda Seyfried, in the window in a hoodie, jump scare. And then we smash cut forward. Oh, also, we get the opening line, which is important.
Hell is a teenage girl.
It's themes. That's themes, baby. Does it mention 9/11? It does not. I rest my case.
It'd be insane for the opening line of a movie to be, remember 9/11?
Well, as I will explain later, I don't think the film would have been able to do that at the time. But anyway.
But so we then cut to Amanda Seyfried, needy Lessicki, who is in a secure mental hospital where she is kind of an influencer. She's confident, she's cocky, she gets letters every day. She has committed horrible crimes, but we don't know what yet.
Who does she get those letters from, Alice?
Creeps, perverts. I think she says Chesters.
Yeah.
Molesters.
Chester is, I think, the kind of American equivalent of the word nonce, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Chester the molester. But
Dennis the Menace is much more cousin.
But so, as she says, she's kind of the shit. And if you want to understand the vibe of this performance, Margot Robbie is cribbing heavily from it whenever she does Harley Quinn. But equally, this is cribbing heavily from Catcher in the Rye, right? One of the first thing to know about this movie, it's written by Diablo Cody, who is most famous for Juno. And if you've seen Juno, you know that Juno has a very particular style of sort of 2000s dialogue, and it's less obnoxious in this, but it does come through.
Yeah, the 2000s dialogue in this is so good, man.
I have in my notes that this is the most 2009 movie ever made.
Yes, I agree. So Needy is in mental hospital. And she's confrontational. She's a kicker, as she says. A nutritionist tries to get her to eat like a second piece of food, and she kicks her across the room and fights with the orderlies and is like dragged into segregation. And that's her little framing narrative as she is sitting in this cell listening to the awful music being piped in.
The shot when she's put into solitary is so fucking good. It's this really tall room she's thrown into, and the shot is from the top looking down. It really, really sells for like claustrophobia. There's just every so often an unbelievably good shot just out of kind of nowhere. Just feel like
really tried hard with
pull
this
it out
film.
for Jennifer's body. It's fucking...
No, don't pull it out for Jennifer's body.
Too late.
That's going to be a criminal offense.
This wasn't directed by accident, right? This is directed by a woman called Karen Kusama, who I like a lot. I'm going to talk about both the director and the writer of this movie at the end of this because I have some scores to settle. However, we then flash back. Needy is from a small town in Minnesota called Devil's Kettle, and it's called Devil's Kettle because it's got a big spooky waterfall that has a hole in the bottom of it that just sucks in, it just consumes things, and no one knows where it comes out. And it's this tiny small town, population like 8,000. And she's in a relationship with her dork-ass boyfriend Chip.
I'm sorry, no, Chip Defense Squad to the
Chip
rescue.
rules.
Chip is a fucking
Chip
legend
sucks.
in this
He
film.
sucks.
Thank you.
Nah,
Thank you, Mia.
legend material, sorry.
Hate him. Worst character and a representation of the Democratic Party. I hate him.
Holy shit.
Chip is like this kind of corny, nice guy who likes Phil Collins. He's like very normy. But so at this
Chip's
point,
fucking fits, man. So the first time we meet Chip, we'll come back to where we are, but just I want to say on the subject of Chip, my man is wearing like a waistcoat over a t-shirt. I'm just like, that's just
so
it's such an
2009.
iconic noise look. It's so
I
good.
wore that in 2009. That's a 2009 ass outfit.
Yeah,
but
I wore this once upon a time.
It's
like,
fucking back. I live in a university town. I'm seeing kids at like college wearing this shit again. They're doing the like.
Oh, we gotta.
They're doing the
something
long
about
sleeve
this.
under short sleeve t-shirt thing again.
Whoa.
It's
But
unacceptable.
so Needy looks different from the way we saw her in Mental Hospital. In Mental Hospital, she looked quite cool and edgy, whereas here she's much more. She's got a worse haircut. She's got big, thick glasses. She's like in the sort of pre-letting her hair down for the prom stage of the teen movie, and she's in a more important relationship than Chip. She is BFFs with Jennifer, and Jennifer is, as we've seen, played by Megan Fox, right? And this dynamic of kind of mousy, kind of nerdy, technically blonde, glasses, smart one, who is like inexplicably friends with the sort of tall, dark-haired, beautiful, hyper femme. I've never seen that before. Devon's there as well.
How dare you?
But
Is Devon the one accusing Needy of being?
Oh, I have the drop because this girl leans over while she is like mooning, while she's like staring at Jennifer, who is a cheerleader as well, and goes,
You're totally lesbian gay.
which
Iconic.
in that voice, yeah. It is iconic.
I think a lesser film would have, because Needy denies this. Needy's like, no, we're just best friends. Like, I don't have a question. A lesser film would have just treated this as like, we need to ensure that this isn't lesbian right at the start. But I think the film does a good job of being like, well, what if it is actually? Like,
Yeah, I have some thoughts about this that we'll get to down the line. But so we meet Chip. We see her interact with Chip.
Hi, were you implying there that I'm Jennifer in this thing? Just realized that's not very
just for that one joke. Thank you.
Unacceptable.
So we see that Jennifer
Chopped liver.
is kind of tyrannical. Right, I'm going to try and relate characters in a movie to us every movie we do since I started doing it in Saloon.
Pointing at every movie going, they just like me for real, even when
That's
it's like
right.
Saloon.
That's right. But so we see that Jennifer is like quite domineering. She like literally she shoves Needy around. She like drags her to this rock show, and all Chip can say is,
Stop kidnapping my girlfriend.
Very meekly, very sort of like, please don't.
mm-hmm.
Jennifer's fit in this scene, like iconic. Like the jeans, the crop top, the big puffy jacket. No, it's not jeans. It's a jean skirt, crop top, puffy jacket. Like the 2000s eyeliner. I'm like, oh, it's all so good. Like just a little bit of lip gloss. I'm like, oh, it's perfect.
It really feels like hot girl aesthetic, especially from 2009. Because I felt like I saw this in every single fucking.
Because it's pre-Instagram and pre-TikTok. And it's like, because she's not wearing a lot of makeup the way that, like, if you want to do like hot girl aesthetic now, you've got to have like makeup artist level makeup. But Jennifer doesn't, because it's that like 2000s era shit. It's on, like, I'm doing Return with a V, but for this.
So Jennifer wants to drag Needy to the town's one bar to see a band called Low Shoulder because she's heard that they're hot.
Yes.
They go to the bar, which is predictably shitty. I think it's like, it looks very much like the band, like the bar the Blues Brothers have to like drive out of in a hurry.
Crucial things happen here, one of which is that Jennifer is like hit on and like sexualized by a lot of the guys in the bar.
By Chris Pratt, the guy I hate to see.
Chris Pratt, who showed up and like 10 full seconds later, I went, because I realized who it was.
Yeah, Chris Pratt playing himself.
Yeah, shows up and never comes back again, as far as I can tell.
Yes,
never comes back.
He's supposed to be like a police cadet who Jennifer is like stringing along. They're both too young to drink, her and Needy.
Allegedly. Which it seems absurd to me when I hear it, because it's like, okay. Like, hey.
Well, they're under 21. So they get a little like cross mark on the back of their hands, which is a little recurring motif. Yeah, so she goes through and she tries to hiss on the band, and we get the first of many
Chris Pratt
allusions.
says they look gay because they're wearing eyeliner.
That's true. We get the sort of first allusion to war at this point, because Needy doesn't want to go and like hang out with the band. She doesn't want to go and hiss on them. She's a little bit creeped out by them. And Jennifer gives her a pep talk. And that pep talk is...
Just boys, morsels, we have all the power. Don't you know that these things, these are like smart bombs, okay? You point them in the right direction and shit gets real.
So I'm not saying that it's unaware of the existence of the war on terror or like the Iraq War or 9/11 in 2009. We get an even less subtle allusion to that in a minute. And we do sort of construct this, first of all, with tits are like smart bombs, which is very funny. Also, the other thing that I want to point out is Chris Pratt and the girl who calls them lesbigays. One of the first things, I think this is a very acutely observed movie about small towns and about growing up in a small town. And the sort of omnipresent casual homophobia is an important facet of that. But so they go and see the band. The band are fucking terrible, by the way, which is a great joke. They sound like every other indie band. Like, I've seen reviews compare them to The Killers. I think it's more of like a Dashboard Confessional vibe, something like that.
It's extraordinarily generic, and I was like about to say that it also feels like Life is Strange. Like, if you had told me that like time would start going backwards in this, I would be like, yeah, that fits in. It was so extremely generic.
Yes.
Jennifer chats to the front man, a guy who calls himself Nikolai. She buys him a 9/11 themed shot from the bar.
Yes, she does.
Again,
the bar has 9/11 tribute shooters, and it's a great sort of irreverent little joke, because it's like it's red, white, and blue, but you have to drink it quickly, otherwise it mixes together and turns brown.
It's such a good bit. So good.
So amazing.
It's really funny. But while she's going to get the drinks, Needy, who is kind of like ignored and kind of like invisible to these men, hears them talking to each other about Jennifer, and they're speculating about whether or not she's a virgin. And she's so creeped out by this that she tries to warn Jennifer, who is hearing none of it.
Well, she says, she marches up to the band and tells them, she's like, oh yeah, by the way, like, and she's lying at this point. She says, oh yeah, she is a virgin, and like, and the implication being, therefore, you won't have any interest in her. But as we hear from Jennifer herself, this is not the case.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but at this point, we have to begin a separate podcast called "Well, There's Your Problem," a podcast with slides. As we recapitulate a real thing, the station nightclub fire, we did an episode on it, where the band's pyrotechnics set light to some insulation foam, and very quickly the whole bar is aflame.
Just before that happens, Needy briefly holds Jennifer's hand, and there's some more like, lesbianism.
Yeah, also the other thing about this is that there's white marks on Needy's hand when she lets go, which I like the implication that Jennifer is like squeezing her hand too hard. There's a little bit of fucking sadism in here too, which is important. But so the bar burns down. Many people are like horribly trampled to death. They get some real work out of the like suit that lets a stuntman run around on fire.
Yeah, that guy's having a great day at work.
So fucking
He's
good.
full like arms waving like, what?
Background of every shot, fully on fire guy running, just perfect. Always good.
Yeah, and so Jennifer is sort of in shock. She's traumatized, and Nikolai induces her into the band's van in what is a very funny but also very creepy way of like, listen, I feel like we just need to get to somewhere safe right now, like my van. Yeah, and it's also the creepiest fucking van.
Yeah, like he is creepy, everything's creepy. But I will say though that like this is where I started to feel like this is the point where I'm like, okay, well, this movie is starting to be about 9/11 like more explicitly, because the sequence of events, which I think is really interesting, is that Jennifer, which in my view represents the American dream, is trapped within the bar, which is on fire, representing 9/11. She is briefly rescued by Needy, who represents the American public, but she is almost immediately after being dragged away by people who are using the fire for their own ends. The band. The band represents the military-industrial complex.
Are we suggesting that Low Shoulder are the CIA?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
I actually agree with that last bit, and I think another scene later on supports it.
Yeah, because they take the American dream and they destroy it for their own purposes, using the fire as an excuse.
It's true.
So they put her in the van. Needy sees the like doors close on her van. Like the implication there is that Jennifer is going to be abducted, and we fear raped. Right? Mm-hmm. That's explicit because she calls them rapists at one point. She says it's like a rapist van. But Needy goes home, and then when she's home, she hears a strange noise. Goes in the kitchen and sees Jennifer, who is looking insanely fucked up.
This bit's quite good, actually. The bit where she's walking around the house trying to find the source of the noise. We get a bunch of like fake outs where she like opens the basement door, and then you think she's going to close it, and there's going to be something behind it, and there isn't. Like,
yeah, I wrote that down.
It's quite effective,
really
yeah.
Yeah. But it's Jennifer, and Jennifer is covered in blood. Her like teeth are covered in blood too. She won't speak, but she's extremely hungry. She tries to like eat a rotisserie chicken out of the fridge.
Yeah, she eats an entire rotisserie chicken with her hands, and I've wrote down, I have been this hungry before.
Yeah.
That's like a night out, definitely.
Has like half a hit of weed consumed the time.
And she vomits like black bile all over Needy and all over the floor.
Yeah. Symbolism for oil.
That's right.
That's right.
That's why it's like ferromagnetic in a little bit, because like there's a point of the scene where it's like the blood like rises up a little bit in a weird way.
Yep.
It's which to me just like, oh, that's ferromagnetic. That's fucking oil.
So she vomits oil all over the American public.
That's right.
and then disappears.
Eating a rotisserie chicken, which is symbolism for
the rotisserie chicken is the Haqqani Network or the Northern Alliance, right?
Well, no, sorry, she doesn't disappear immediately. First, she throws Needy about a bit, then like feels her up, and then it's like ambiguous as to whether she's about to bite or kiss Needy's neck. But then she does,
which triggered gay panic in me, by the way.
There's a lot of gay panic in this movie in the best possible way. So Needy goes to school the next day, having spent the night mopping oil off the floor. And Jennifer is there, looks totally normal.
And also does a bit of gaslight gatekeep girl boss. She's like, what are you talking about? Like,
you're insane. I was never, I never vomited oil all over your floor.
Was there a gay lord as well?
9/11 never
Classic
happened.
Classic naughties vibe. Also, at this point, So we get like two of the kids in the background are talking about the fire that happened the previous night. And they're like, oh, Needy seems really fucked up. And one of them was like, oh yeah, like she's probably got PTSD. My dad was in Operation Enduring Freedom and he got super fucked up by it. So
that's true.
Again,
that is
9/11. True. And then who walks in? J.K. Simmons walks in.
J.K. Simmons walks the fuck in. I love J.K. Simmons. He's got one fake hand. He's got the little like clips thing that the guy in Malcolm in the Middle has.
Yeah. Here's one thing that is, I think, an implicit 9/11 joke, but it's also a joke about any kind of tragedy that befalls a small town. And I think this is, again, the small townness of this movie, is he delivers a truly absurd sentence where he eulogizes everyone who's died, and he says,
"We can't let that damn fire win."
Which is, like, on its face, hysterical. It's one of my favorite lines in the movie. But it's not just a 9/11 joke, like letting the terrorists win being, this absurd thing. It's also something that, like, a high school teacher in a town of 8,000 people would genuinely come up with, I think.
He also says that he's seen some fucked up like stuff in the past. I think the implication is meant to be that he's a veteran and that's how he lost his hands. That was the interpretation I took.
Yeah, it's also a straight disability gag, because I don't think we see that he's missing a hand until after he says that.
It's on some Paul Verhoeven shit. It's on like Made Me the Man I Am stuff. Like, it's good. It's a nice moment. But then like kids are grieving in the hallway. Like one of the teachers has died. Like a couple of the students are dead.
Jennifer doesn't care. She's very irreverent about it.
Yeah.
But also another small town line. She's like, oh, anyone we know die? And Needy has to say, we know everyone. Like, there's not that many people, which I really like.
But Needy says how the public grief is surreal. She talks about like having survivor's guilt from having escaped the fire. It's good shit. It's 9/11.
Yeah, the school football captain is like weeping openly in class. Huge guy.
His best friend died. Yeah.
Huge guy. And then we see Jennifer approach him as he's crying on the football field. We get this like huge long dolly shot, like a zoom in on him.
Unfucking believable. Such a good shot. He's stood in the middle of like the field, just like crying, and the dolly shot starts from the opposite end of the field and goes the entire way to him. And he looks off to one side and sees Jennifer walking towards him. And then it cuts back to a sort of like medium shot of him, and she appears from the other direction to sort of like set you a little bit on edge. It's great. It's a fucking great shot.
Fantastic.
The soundtrack is like hard rock as well, as it seems.
Yeah. She like sexually manipulates his grief, right? She says, oh, I saw your dead friend. And the last thing he said was, you and I would be a cute couple.
We would be a banging couple.
She says a banging couple.
Yeah. And she leads him.
He said banging? Like,
it's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
She leads him into the woods, and they start to kiss, and various forest creatures and woodland animals are like emerging to watch them, and he gets a little bit freaked out by this, and she is sort of like unsurprised and impatient. And then we get the reveal as she fucking unhinges her jaw and devours him abdomen first. She like tears his viscera out and like consumes them.
There's also as she's jacking him off, she just says, "Do you miss your buddy Craig?" And he's like, "What?" Yeah, I guess so.
Such a good scene.
So good.
Such a surreal fucking moment. Like,
sex and death. It's great.
9/11.
9/11, famously very sexual.
That's right. So Needy talks
both
with
towers were very phallic in many ways.
Well, Needy hears on the radio that Lowe's Shoulder have kind of become like local heroes because they allegedly pulled a bunch of people and rescued them from the fire, which she knows isn't true.
They're also donating 3% of the sales of their
We need to talk
symbol
in depth about that scene when it comes up, but we'll get there. But yeah.
There's another great shot, which is of a fucking candlelit vigil singing their song, which
so
is
funny.
Again, it's both 9/11 and it's like small town tragedy. But so yeah, the football player Jonas, who she kills, his body is found pretty quickly, and this is like a dual tragedy that like catapults the town into national news. That's why you get the vigil. There's another great shot that I love here, which is a big portrait of Jonas next to like all of the silverware in the trophy cabinet, surrounded by flowers, and it just holds it in like time lapse as the flowers wilt next to it to show the passage of time. It's really fucking good.
So Chip calls Needy to tell her the news that like Jonas has been killed, and we get some more sweet stuff between them. My notes say Chip is cute. But also Jennifer has called Needy and is being like really weird on the other end of the phone. She says like, I'm a god and like I feel really great. And there's the famous shot where she sticks out her tongue and burns it with a cigarette. Yeah.
This is normal to us.
She sticks out her tongue and burns it with a cigarette lighter, which again I'm always doing.
It's really effective horror.
The swimming bit, and so Jennifer goes swimming in a lake, and it's meant to be that she's hot. My notes say hard drive check in progress.
It's a fantastic shot. I'll say that. But again, I don't think this woman is old enough to be sexualized.
Now's the time to talk about the fact that the film does want you to think that this high school girl is sexually attractive.
Yes. Although I have different opinions about what the film wants you to think about that and what the marketing of the film wants you to think about that.
Yes.
I tend to think that the film wants you to see her in the lake at this point as a sort of like feminine avatar of revenge who is about to like wreak havoc upon the town in a way that is sexual, yes, but is sexual in response to like male sexual aggression. And we never actually really see men in this movie be sexually aggressive, but the idea of it is very much in there. Whether that's the like band, being talked about as being rapists, or whether that's Jonas sort of like following his dick, or whether it's Chip, who we see in a later scene. Well, we'll get to that. But
we see that the Low Shoulders song kind of becomes the anthem of the town. And Devil's Kettle becomes the center of what Needy calls a national tragedy boner, which again, 9/11. We get a little, like a brilliant early 2000s combo slur, and content warning for like ableism, double ableism here, because Chip describes the situation with Jonas as freak-tarded, which is fantastic bit of early naughty slang.
I feel like
everyday high school.
Yeah, I feel like I'm right back in high school.
Yeah, it's a very keenly observed high school thing.
Eating boys. Yeah.
Then
we get 1 month later. We get this fucking absolutely pivotal scene, which is about 9/11.
Yes.
So we hear that Low Shoulder, J.K. Simmons comes to the class, he's like, Low Shoulder are donating 3% of their profits for the song to the local community. And Needy's like, what about the other 97%? Like, these guys aren't heroes, she said. They didn't really save anybody. And another girl in class...
She's talking about the NYPD.
Yeah, exactly, she is. Because Chastity, the girl from earlier on who called her lesbian, turns around and says, Low Shoulder are American heroes. We need them now more than ever. And they have this fucking argument in class. And it's like, this is about 9/11.
See, I disagree slightly here, because I think this is about the war. I think this is about the following war in Iraq, specifically, about the military, not necessarily about the NYPD. But it still hits. It's still very clearly sort of like... In reference to 9/11.
I concede that you're kind of we need them now more than ever, you're with us or against us thing is a 9/11 reference. I don't think the whole movie's about 9/11. I'm making a staged with I'm taking a staged
it feels like every
here.
3 scenes we talk about how it's about 9/11. So it's and you have additionally brought up at least 2 of those times.
Also, unknowingly, you've already said the things that will enable me to argue later on that it is about 9/11 when we get to the end.
Unforced errors repeated.
We'll see.
I'm afraid.
We'll see. So at this point, Jennifer gets asked out on a date.
Jennifer, who looks like shit now.
Yes. Oh, fuck. Actually, there's things here that I want to talk about in relation to how I think this movie, what I think this movie is about, in that Jennifer is like, she's bemoaning how terrible her skin looks and stuff. And she goes,
God, it's like I'm one of the normal girls.
Oh, and we also get some, yes,
that's right. Yeah.
Literally, yes. Also, we get some more sort of like 2009 feminism, because Needy asks her if she's PMSing, and she says,
PMS isn't real, Needy. It was invented by the boy-run media to make us seem crazy.
And I love the phrase "the boy-run media" so much.
It's really
by the
good.
way. It's because it's perfect sort of like high school. I don't have the language to articulate this yet necessarily, but like I am aware of misogyny. I'm aware of like structural misogyny in the media, but like
Gender dysphoria isn't real, Alice. It was invented by the boy-run media to make us seem crazy.
It is a boy-run media, you know. That's the thing. But so Colin is an emo, I guess we would say. He doesn't really neatly fit into like any particular alternative.
Jennifer just called him emo later.
Yes, yeah, and he asks her out on a date, and in a just a perfect teenage emo boy move, he invites her to a screening of Rocky Horror.
And it's really good. It's such a good Cole response because he goes, "Do you want to go see Rocky Horror?" And she goes, "I don't like boxing movies." And I was like,
"Yeah,
gorgeous, perfect." Ship it.
Yes, but she blows him off, and what she says to Needy about this is,
"My dick is bigger than his." Well,
he wears mascara, he wears nail polish. My dick is bigger than his. There's themes emerging here that are not 9/11 related, but
they are
instead
actually 9/11 related.
As
I will argue
related.
They are in fact 9/11.
You could really never predict what we're going to take away from a movie, can you? just no way.
It's usually one of two things. It's usually
9/11
either transgender or 9/11. Those are the two big ones.
But I looked this up before coming on the podcast of like, because I watched this and I was like, yeah, it's for sure 9/11, independently from you guys. And I tried looking it up to see if anyone else had figured out that this is about 9/11, and I can't find it. As far as I can tell, we are the only people who have the analysis.
Because you're insane.
Because
you're insane. Because you're all wrong. Because it's a thing that exists. Like it is speaking about the 2000s, which means it has to speak about 9/11.
But
Mike.
When we get to the end, I will show that this film is about 9/11.
So her dick is bigger than his, right? But nonetheless, Needy persuades her to go out on a date with him anyway.
No, Needy doesn't persuade her. Needy says, well, I think Colin's quite cute, but like whatever. And then Jennifer says, oh, you like him? Oh, in that case, I will.
Yeah.
Indeed, interesting.
Which is themes.
I did that with your boyfriend the other night, Alice. Fuck.
Literally, I swear to God, please do not devour my boyfriend.
I won't devour him too much.
Please. But just gonna listen to this.
I promise I'm not possessed.
Sure.
Mother sucks cocks in hell.
Sorry.
So she lures Colin to an abandoned house on the pretense of having sex with him.
Happy Halloween, everyone.
Oh God.
And they kiss a bit, but then she has an Alice moment, right, where she grabs him and she goes,
I need you frightened.
and she starts breaking his fucking bones, culminating in again devouring him, viscera first.
See, it skipped over a lot of stuff here.
Yeah.
One is that as Colin is getting to Jennifer's to the house where Jennifer has arranged to meet him, we see some like great text speak from her. It's just like, you need to turn left on this road, and it's because back in the day, kids, you used to have to pay by the text message. So you have to use like really short text speak. It's a nice little noughties moment, and also this scene is intercut with just a fantastic scene of Needy and Chip having sex, which is just so adorable.
Well, this is the thing. I don't think it's adorable at all. I think because Needy, as we see, while Chip is like inexpertly having sex with her in a kind of naive, you might find it charming way of like he gets a like novelty condom that's supposed to make it fun for the girl, right?
Yes,
we see that Needy is kind of like psychically linked to Jennifer a little bit. She like sees the presence of Jennifer and like a sort of a bloodied Colin. She feels Jennifer kiss Colin when Chip kisses her, and she kind of she is like disturbed by this. She screams, in fact. And what Chip does is think, oh, fuck, yeah, I'm doing amazing. he like grins and asks her, am I too big?
Yeah, that's a really interesting moment.
Because Chip is a piece of shit, because men are pieces of shit. He is like unable to think of anything other than his own pleasure, and he mistakes her anguish for like pleasure and awe of him, because men are pigs.
And also, this is also why he's a representation of the Democratic Party. He is limp, ineffectual, incapable pleasure, and also thinks he's doing a great job.
Yes. But so Needy has this vision of Jennifer eating Colin, and ultimately she has to stop Chip and his stupid novelty condom, and she runs home. And on the way home, driving her mum's like Dodge Neon or whatever, I think it's a Kia actually. She sees a bloody Jennifer like stalking across the road, hunched over.
Great bit of physical acting from Megan Fox in this.
Really good.
Yeah. And she actually like she stops to see her, and Jennifer like attacks the car and like breaks the window. It's like it's a nice effective bit of horror. So then she gets home, and Jennifer is in her fucking bed.
Yep.
Yes. And Jennifer tries to and does seduce her. Like she wants answers. Jennifer doesn't want to give them to her, and Jennifer has another line that I think is important.
Come on, Needy, let me stay the night. We can play boyfriend-girlfriend like we used to. Now,
I'm pretty certain that makes Jennifer the boyfriend there, but I think you can read it one of two ways. There is another line at the end that kind of like suggests the opposite reading, but that's my reading of it.
We get a lesbian kiss, of which a great deal was made when the film came out, because it 2009, it was like, oh fuck. Women kissing women.
It's like very, very titillation, right? And it's, I don't know, I thought it was well done, actually.
Needy reciprocates this?
It's a full-on makeout scene.
Yeah. But Needy sort of like catches herself and is like, wait a second. Like, what is happening here? What actually happened to you? And Jennifer agrees to explain. She's and we flash back. She's in the van with the band, and she sees them being creepy. Up front, Nikolai is arguing about whether or not she's really a virgin. He literally says at one point, I hate girls. And she asks, are you guys rapists? And then when they don't answer her and they keep talking about whether or not she's a virgin, she's like, oh, yeah, I totally am. I don't even know anything about sex stuff. And that is another fucking example of a world that is permeated by the possibility of male sexual violence. It is something that, like, every teenage girl and a lot of now adult women who at the time didn't know they were teenage girls, a surprising number, had to negotiate, right? It's like an omnipresent piece of misogyny, and I think it's a vitally important bit of context for the film.
Yeah, for sure. We see that they are like devil worshippers, and they are sacrificing. They do in fact sacrifice Jennifer.
It's a fun joke. They're not rapists. They're Satanists. They're, if anything, worse. They sacrifice her to Satan in order to advance their own careers. And this is at once played for laughs, but also not, because it's a serious thing, like men literally sacrificing women to advance themselves. But also, Nikolai like sort of leans over to her, and he's like, you know how hard it is to make it as an indie band these days?
Yeah, it's such a good line. I wrote that down for
You have to get on Letterman, or you have to get on a soundtrack, which is a joke at the expense of the soundtrack to Juno, which fucking like launched a bunch of no-name indie bands.
But yeah, this scene is
also
like,
a line. There's a line that has aged so fucking well too, where one of them is a bit recalcitrant, and Nikolai goes, "Listen, do you want to be a loser forever, or
do you want to be rich and awesome?" Like that guy from Maroon 5.
This scene is like really disturbing though, and I think part of the credit for that has to go to Megan Fox, who just like really sells it.
She's a good actor.
She is.
And
this scene is like really like
Fox.
hard to watch actually, because it is just like these guys killing a young girl to advance their careers, and like it makes me think about like, I need to be very careful what I say here, but I cannot name the person or the TV company involved, but like a friend of mine recently auditioned for a big TV series, and in the final round of auditions was like assaulted by the lead writer and lead actor with the director's knowledge. And like this was reported to like her agent and my agent, and everyone knows this. And like, turns out this guy's just been like using his job to touch trans actresses. And he's like, for the moment, just totally gotten away with that, and there's nothing that anyone can say. And like his big show is going to be made, and it's like going to win awards and stuff. And it's like, this scene makes me think of that like, as you said, Alice, men do advance their careers by sacrificing the bodies of young women. And like that, for that reason, like this scene is just like super fucking disturbing, actually.
Absolutely. So they stab her with the knife that makes you transgender. And then they throw that knife into Devil's Kettle, the hole that nothing ever comes back from, because this movie is in part about holes. That itself has sort of a feminine significance, I think. And then she doesn't remember what happens after that, except that then she's walking home. It is quite literally, to reference the title of a much better feminist horror movie, A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. And she runs into a foreign exchange student from India who they'd seen at the bar earlier, and who has like survived the fire.
I've run into the only person of color in the film.
That's not true. The nutritionist who Needy kicks across the room.
I'm terribly sorry.
So there are two
she
people of color in this movie.
She runs into 50% of the people of color in this film.
And they are both there to get to be objects of violence. Yes. And he's literally called Ahmed from India.
Has no lines.
But no one knows that he is alive, and on that basis, because she feels sort of unutterable hunger, she takes him into the woods and, devours him.
Back in the present day, we see
yes.
That Jennifer says to Needy, like, when I'm full, I'm basically unkillable. And she like stabs her arm and it instantly heals. And Needy's like, what do you mean when you're full? Like, of what? And Jennifer doesn't answer, but we understand that it's like men. She eats men to sustain herself, and Needy kicks her out.
Yeah. At this point, Colin's body is found, and in another kind of oblique 9/11 reference, no one really cares.
There's a lot of references to 9/11 in this film that isn't about 9/11, according to you, Alice.
It's crazy how that happens.
I think it's a minor theme. However, the joke is, no one cares because everyone's used to funerals at this point. Mm-hmm. Enough people have died that people are just kind of bored and like used to it.
Weird how they referenced COVID in this movie from 2009.
Yeah. What did they know?
Yeah. So at this point, Needy does some research. She tries to tell Chip. Chip doesn't believe her because Chip is a misogynist and he doesn't believe women. She goes into the occult section of the high school library.
Which every library, of course, has.
Yeah, of course.
He will flag that up later when Chip's like, we have an occult section. She's like, it's pretty small.
Yeah. And she finds out what a succubus is. And a succubus, if you're not familiar, is a kind of like female demon that devours men sexually and also literally in order to gain power, right? And the reason why this has happened is because Jennifer has been inhabited by a demon because they have killed her as a virgin as a sacrifice, but she's not a virgin, and it's gone wrong. And that's also why Low Shoulder, the band, has still become successful, as the sacrifice has still worked. It's just, it's deformed, it's perverted Jennifer. And
she also finds out that she can be killed with a knife through the heart. That's the only way to kill her.
Yeah. At this point, the school is gearing up for prom, or the spring formal. I write down another great small town thing, which is Chip has reservations for them at the Cheesecake Factory.
Yeah, that's so adorable. So adorable. My life has been changed by walking into a Cheesecake Factory before, so I'm like, my dude is in for an amazing night.
So, and she begs Chip to stay away from the prom because Jennifer is going to eat him.
Well, she's going to eat everybody. She's like the dance. She consumes boys She's like, oh, the prom, it's be like an all-you-can-eat buffet.
Sort of a Carrie reference. And at this point, we see like Chip is sort of thinks that she's crazy, thinks that she's breaking up with him, but agrees to not go, at least in theory. And then we see everyone get ready for the dance, and most notably, like we get a couple of great shots of like parents taking photos and stuff. But the shot of Jennifer that we get, she is smearing foundation on, and she's like almost breaking down in the mirror. That to me, I do not like it for reasons that I'll get into, but I'm interested in it because I think that is what you would do with a transgender character. It is like almost a cliche at this point in movies about trans women that you have to have a shot of like a trans woman putting on makeup and almost breaking down crying.
I mean, I am always doing this, but
yeah, it's like,
oh, of course, yeah, we all are.
You're not supposed to say that.
It's a stereotype.
Also, something very funny is Jennifer has 2 pictures of herself on her nightstand, which is very funny.
Good. J.K. Simmons introduces the dance. Another great small town moment because the snacks are pecan sandies and cran grape, which sound absolutely atrocious.
And Low Shoulder are playing the dance
for free.
That's right.
The goodness of their hearts.
Yeah.
Incredible early 2000s
Surge. This is a reference to the second wave of deployment of troops to Iraq.
That's right.
I guess. So Needy looks for Jennifer at the dance, but she can't find her. And then she realizes that Jennifer is like stalking Chip, who is on his way. He's like walking through a creepy sort of darkened park. And Jennifer tries to like use her feminine wiles on Chip. She's like, Needy is crazy, and also she was cheating on you with Colin, with the emo kid. And this works because Chip is a misogynist.
No, she appeals to like Chip's like teenage boy insecurity, where she's like, she was cheating with Colin and they were doing things that you've never even heard of. Because the vibe is that Chip is like sexually inexperienced, but like tries to make up for it by being charming. And Jennifer just completely zeroes in on that insecurity and just nails him to the wall with it.
There is a very Juno line here, which is they were intimate, and by intimate I mean they were porking on a semi-regular basis.
I love the word porking. It's very
porking.
Very
They were opening up new pork markets.
That's right.
Rest in peace to Liz Truss.
So she takes him. Takes him to the abandoned, creepy, darkened swimming pool.
She also, while she's kissing Chip, she says, "Say I'm better than Needy," and he's like, "What?"
And he can't go through with it because he's in love with Needy at heart. He's like a good guy, and he feels sort of conflicted about this. And this allows the time for Needy to show up just in time to see him getting his neck bitten out by Jennifer. And this leads to a fight in the pool, which is, I think, generally quite well done.
Yeah. So Chip's bleeding out, and Needy pepper sprays Jennifer using Chip's pepper spray that he was given by his mum. And Jennifer vomits black blood and then levitates up out of the pool.
Really
and
good
there's
line.
There's a very funny line from the trailer where Chip goes, "She could fly," and Needy's like, "She's just hovering. It's not that impressive." Jennifer, like, hovering in midair is like, "Why do you always undermine everything I do?"
This is really good. Just really, really good.
Very funny. She's like, "You always steal everything I have." And she's like, "And now I'm eating your boyfriend." It's just very funny.
Yeah.
Which I will do, Alice.
Please do not eat my boyfriend. And we see the hazards of trying to eat my boyfriend, because at this point Chip spears her with some kind of like pool implement, a pool halberd that they definitely have.
Well, she threatens to eat Needy, and then we get a
she says
bisexual jokes
both ways,
because Needy's like, "I thought you only ate boys," and she's like, "I go both ways," and it's meant to be like, ooh.
But we get an explicitly phallic sort of like almost death punishment. And this is a classic of the horror genre, right? When you want to punish a bad woman, you impale her, particularly a lesbian. Long history of this, right back to like the 1910s. Highly recommend Vito Russo's book, The Celluloid Closet, for a potted history of this. But yeah, she is impaled by a man, and it's like her joke line about this to Needy explicitly compares that wound to a vagina. She asks her if she has a tampon. And at this point, the movie loses me, right? Because my sympathy throughout has been with Jennifer. She's a piece of shit. She is ableist, certainly, casually racist, all within a milieu that supports those things. However, she has been sort of revenging herself, right? And the movie has displayed a great deal of sympathy for her, and that now just kind of ends.
I think you're wrong, but okay.
I think that this is it's occasionally a thing that comes up in science fiction. Is something called the motherhood statement, right? Which is the point of writing science fiction is you imagine alternate worlds, alternate societies, alternate ways of being, right? But then once you do that, you get scared. And if you get scared, then you have to tie it back together, and you have to end it with, well, what turns out to really matter, what turns out to really save the day is true love and apple pie and motherhood, right? I think that's what this is. I think that for the last 20 minutes of the movie, there's this sort of hold back, this reassertion that, like, okay, we don't actually have to, like, critically support Jennifer anymore.
I think you're dead wrong in that, but we'll get there because I think the ending's important. But anyway, Jennifer gets impaled by the pool halberd, leaves, Chip dies, my notes say R.I.P. Chip. And at this point, we're back at the start of the film with Needy outside Jennifer's room as she's like eating her hair and stuff. Needy comes into the room like fucking Castile in the Born Supremacy. She like dives and forward rolls through the glass. It's fucking sick.
And she has, and this is, you're going to say this is a 9/11 reference. It isn't. It doesn't make sense as well.
I wasn't going to say that, actually. I wasn't.
She has armed herself with a box cutter, which is the only other comparisons of this movie to 9/11 I've read make a great deal of that. I would not.
Honestly, didn't occur to me, but Jennifer does make fun of it for being like a butch lesbian weapon.
Yes!
Because do you buy all your murder weapons at Home Depot? You're so butch.
God, you're butch.
It's really funny.
Yes, literally yes. And then she stabs her through the heart, and the joke line here is she goes, "My tit," because she stabbed her in the tit. And it's like, no, hold on a second. What you're showing us is literally a young girl's mother walks in on her best friend, straddling her on top of her, having just fucking penetrated her. Like, this is, and we've seen them kissing earlier. It's explicitly a like sexualized struggle. In order to kill her, she's had to like throw away and destroy the fucking BFF necklace that they had. You have to diffuse that with humor. You have to get out of that somehow. Otherwise, you've just accidentally made something that is earnestly too lesbian. And in 2009, you can't fucking do that. You have to row it back. You have to be like, this is dark comedy now.
You also can't talk about the Iraq War, but we'll get onto that. But then, yeah, you're right. Jennifer's mum does come in and discover this. Needy's arrested and winds up in prison, which is where we see her at the start. Something you might have missed watching the fight is that Jennifer also bites Needy at one point, and that turns out to be quite important now. Because as Needy tells us in voiceover, if you're bitten by a demon and survive, you absorb some of that demon's powers. So she levitates up out of the solitary confinement cell and kicks the window out and escapes.
Yes, and goes to seek her revenge on Low Shoulder, who over the credits, we see that she has like horrifyingly murdered with their very own knife. Which I like. I'm always in favor of this, you know. And that's ostensibly the movie. And I do want to say that Kasama and Cody have like barely done anything since. This movie lost like $5-6 million. Their other projects have also lost money. Their movies don't sell, and it's not because they're not good. It's not because they don't know how to write or how to direct. It's because men don't know how to sell them, don't know how to market them, are afraid of women, and are pigs. And Valerie Solanas was fucking right.
Yeah, and also 9/11.
Yeah.
It's not about 9/11. How is it about 9/11?
I want to yes and you here. Okay, so Needy kills the band over the credits, which immediately raised the question for me, why didn't Jennifer? Jennifer does at no point goes in search of the band. And I was like, okay, I think a less interesting film would have had Jen come back from the dead and then immediately like hunt down the band for the rest of the film. But it doesn't do that. And my interpretation of the film is that when women are like man-eaters, when we are evil or like bitchy, and also when we turn against each other, it's because that is a response to male violence. And Jennifer, I think the film does have sympathy with her, but we are shown that she chooses the wrong targets, which is like men who are not the ones who are violent against her, and also like her fellow women, also against Needy. At the end of the film, Needy takes some power from Jennifer. She like learns something from her. In fact, the line of the soundtrack that comes up just before we cut to credits is, "You should learn how to say no." So I think that Needy learns that actually having that kind of power, having that kind of no, having that kind of like fuck you men attitude is appropriate when it's used against the correct targets. I think that's the main theme of the film. That's the kind of feminist theme. But I think secondarily, it is also about 9/11 and the Iraq War, because we see the ways in which violence, grief, and trauma turn people into like attacking the wrong targets, into like being duped by this kind of like maudlin commercialized grief. And I think also at this time when, remember, like you couldn't explicitly say that you were against the Iraq War because you would lose your career if that happened, like the Dixie Chicks did. I think this is like a subtle anti-war film that's saying like, yeah, okay, this fucked up shit happened, but let's not fight the wrong targets.
Yes.
That's why I think this film is about 9/11.
I would even take it even further actually and say that it's actually like revolutionary anti-war, like encouraging that, saying that Needy, like as a representation of the American public, can take the knowledge that, or take the tools that have been used to direct to against like the wrong targets, and like and to sort of stop the cycle of terror has to sort of like use that against the correct target, as you say, which is the band, which is a representation of the military-industrial complex, because they are sort of the cause of it. And that is also why Jennifer is incapable of doing that, because thematically, the band is the source of her power and has corrupted her and caused her to cause all the sort of mayhem and chaos and death that she initially doesn't want to do, but has been sort of like warped and forced into doing due to someone else.
I don't know that she has been. I think she's only been granted the facility to do it, because we know that she's mean beforehand. We know that she expresses sort of dominance over men beforehand as much as she can.
But we also know that is in response to her being consistently sexualized by men.
Because I think the really important part is that her first victim is someone who is sort of like coded is a brown person. Like that is the first victim that happens is a brown person, and consequently boys start dying as well, which I feel like is a sort of message about how like the target here has been sort of like inadvertently so many different people, and never really about there's never has been a correct target for Jennifer to have, because the entire premise of what the band wanted and sort of like how she became the way she did was based on a lie, which I feel is symbolic of, their weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. It doesn't matter that it's a lie because they still get all the powers, or that like the band still gets their success and fame. But the death and destruction that follows it are sort of forced upon Jennifer. That Needy then has to sort of like forcibly take the power from, so that that cycle of violence can end.
I think it has sympathies towards being a revolutionary feminist film that ultimately gets scared and runs back into being a liberal one. I think it's one that tries to indict patriarchy and then gets scared and goes, okay, but you can't have too much fun while you're doing it, and you can't be too indiscriminate. And there's a way to sort of like revenge yourself smarter, not harder, as it were. I also think it's a transgender ass movie.
Oh yeah, definitely.
For a lot of the reasons that we've gotten into, pretty much everything Jennifer does is like, I'm not like other girls because I have a fucking penis. She, is sort of like granted this satanic masculine power. I will also remind you about fucking depictions of various demons as hermaphroditic. I think it's like borderline explicit. She starts becoming more sort of like male coded as she becomes more monstrous, and I think she is able to use that in a way that is like avenging, in a way that the movie frightens itself with.
I don't know. I don't think she does become more male coded, because it would have been very, very easy, for instance, in like the prom, when she's in her prom dress, to have her like wearing a kind of like femme suit or something if you wanted to do that. But she remains very femme throughout.
She even becomes more feminine, like in her more sort of final demonic form when she's powerful.
Yeah.
On the other hand, when Needy becomes more powerful, she becomes Butcher, right? She's wearing the fucking hoodie. She's got the box cutter from Home Depot. I don't know. I don't think it's about 9/11. I still don't think it's about 9/11.
You're wrong.
Possibly.
We do have a science-based system on this podcast, and this is a mainline episode, so if you want to...
yeah.
It's true.
We can Scum score
it. That's true. All right, fine. It's called the Scum system.
It's called the Scum Manifesto.
Yeah, it fucking should be. It stands for Society for Cutting Up Men. So on SMUM, how does this movie score?
Are we giving it SMUM points for the fact, like the early 2000s dialogue? I kind of want to give it.
I love it, man.
I think it is quite smummy in a way that I like, but it is very
There's
smummy.
A couple of lines
I'm
very pleased with, isn't it?
A lot of the things that I think make you believe that it's a 9/11 movie are sort of deliberately smarmy and irreverent about the climate of the 2000s, which is, of course, largely derived from 9/11. I think there's an extra step there that makes a difference, but I think it is very smarmy.
The thing that makes it really smarmy is just the fact that they not only do they mention 9/11 by name and have it as a sort of like alcoholic shot, they also they demonstrate it visually by having two long shot glasses with one that is shorter than the other, that isn't like as filled, which I feel like there is some symbolism there that I haven't fully cracked out, but I feel like the fact that it is there feels to me like very, very smarmy.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about 3 or 4?
I could even do 5, to be honest.
Okay. Cultural insensitivity.
Well, everyone involved is racist. I don't think that's portrayed as a positive thing. I think it's part of the sort of like excoriating view of American small town high school circa 2009. I think part of the sort of like reason for Jennifer's sort of roaring rampage of revenge, right, is a sort of honest disgust for that culture and everything that it embodies, and that includes 9/11 and its sort of like sentimentality. As to like how culturally insensitive it expects the viewer to be, I'm not sure. I could be persuaded any sort of number on this.
Yeah, I don't really know what to say either. There, like, certainly, are there any people of color in the film who like opine on the film's themes or who really sort of have much to do at all? No. There's the orderly. I forgot to mention Needy's orderly right at the start of the film, and the nutritionist and Ahmet from India. But that's like, oh wait, no, Chastity as well, I guess. But yeah, well, Chastity has a perspective on the film's themes.
Say 3, 2.
Hard to say. Jeff,
I'm sorry.
Give us a number.
3, fine.
3 it is. Unprovoked violence.
Unprovoked violence. Oh, here's the thing.
Such a weird film to try to attach the Scum spectrum to.
I think the viewpoint of the film is that it's all provoked violence from Jennifer's side, and certainly from Needy's side. So your unprovoked violence is from men and from low shoulders specifically, which is horrible. It's portrayed as being horrible.
It's not portrayed positively, so it's a very, very low score, I'd say.
I think it's a 0.
Happy to go with that.
Although, I don't know, like, because the people that Jennifer kills are innocent and, like, she's bad targets, so, like... But then the film isn't, like, supposed to... it's not saying that's good. Guys, like, question mark, like, NA. 0, I guess, by default. And misogyny, we're going to be here all day with this one, like...
Oh, yeah, well, I don't think it's a misogynist movie, however... fucking separating out internalized misogyny is a lifetime project.
Indeed.
It passes the Kill James Bond test in that the female characters do have opinions on the themes of the film.
Yes. I do want to talk about we should go back to cultural insensitivity and give it an extra point, because the ways in which it talks about lesbianism and bisexuality are
true.
not explicit and are portrayed in like this is just how like BFFs can be with each other. It's a kind of like youth in revolt kind of thing, which I think is also a misogynist thing.
I don't know. I'm quite uncomfortable putting homophobia under cultural insensitivity, because that's one we very specifically carved out to talk about, like, race.
Well, it's not the SRUM system.
Well, yeah, exactly. I don't know. I don't know about that specifically.
We'll give it an extra point for miscellaneous.
Sure.
Misogyny... I really don't know. This might be the first time we have to abandon Scum scoring.
Yeah, well, we didn't have to.
We don't know.
The Scum score for this movie is a series of question marks. We have no idea. I think it's a great movie.
It's good. I really enjoyed it.
It made me more misandrist.
I liked it too.
It's a great movie.
I despise the way in which it's marketed. You can look at all of the posters for this are like Megan Fox's legs, basically.
And also like dressed as a schoolgirl, and it's like, okay.
And I do want to talk about Megan Fox, right? Because Megan Fox is then and now a bit of a joke as an actor in a way that I do find very misogynist and very unfair, because I think she's good in this. And one of the things she said in this is, I wasn't really sure what I was doing. I was just trying to have fun with it, and I felt like I was able to make fun of my own image as how some people might perceive Megan Fox to be. I was just sort of flying freely, and I hope some of it works. I think there's two ways you can read that statement, right? One is that she's telling the truth, and she's just instinctually got this script quite well. And the other is that she's a better actress than a lot of people give her credit for, but she knows that in order to fucking sell Megan Fox as a persona, she has to go, oh yeah, I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just here. And men don't fucking know how to market movies with women, by women. Valerie Solanas, once again.
I agree. Well, that's the first time ever on Kill James Bond that we've had to give a Scum score of ooh. There we go.
Watch this. Watch other feminist horror films. Watch The Descent. Watch A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night.
The Descent is so fucking good.
The Descent's
yeah, we'll get
so
you back
good.
on for it. There's genuinely, it's a burgeoning genre, and I really like it as a sort of way of expressing feminine angst and terror.
It's really good. I really enjoyed Men. One thing I will say, however, if we do want to start swinging towards more horror films, would be that I'm a little baby and would find that very difficult. I'll do it. God knows I'll do it, but I'm issuing a complaint up top. You gonna make me watch The Descent? Come on.
I have to go and eat Alice's boyfriend, but before we do, Mia, where can the people
I'm
find you?
readying my pool halberd.
Yeah, the pool nights are ready.
Mia, where can the people find you?
You can find me in my more everything is 9/11 conspiracy theories on miamulder.com, which will take you to my YouTube channel, which is good.
Cool.
Yeah, I know, right? You can also find the podcast that I do, called Leech Fest, which is a medical history podcast if you want something completely different. Although I guess in my next episode, I'll talk about how comas are like 9/11. And
genuinely, everything is about 9/11 would be a good YouTube channel. I'd watch that.
Yeah. And if you want to lodge a formal complaint in the municipality of Sollentuna, you can send me an email to mia.mulder@sollentuna.se. and I'll lodge your complaint with the municipal planning board.
Really offers every
Well,
service.
thank you so much
Those are my 3 current occupations: podcaster, YouTuber, and politician.
Cool.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute delight. We'll have to get you back on for the descent so we can scare Devin.
I'd love that. And
I'll
I
watch
still
it.
want to do freaking podcast. We said this last time we were here, Alice, like that we were going to do a podcast together.
Yes.
And we keep talking about it, but it's, I guess, time. But it will happen. It must happen.
It will happen.
How
It
many
must.
podcasts
If you want to
can
listen to a
one woman
podcast, if you want to listen to a podcast with me and Mia, just stand by, write in maybe, and we'll see what we can make happen. In the meantime, thank you for listening. We have a Patreon. You don't have to subscribe to it. You can do after you've given money to food banks and everything else that you should be giving money to. For I think it's $5 a month.
£5.
£5 a month, for which you can get a bonus episode.
We should have gone for dollars, but we didn't. We went for pounds.
$50,000 an hour in exchange for which you can get a bonus episode, the next one of which will be a Q&A, because we're overdue for one of those.
That is right.
The next mainline episode will be the earliest man from U.N.C.L.E. film.
Oh, Christ.
Yeah, whichever one of those it is. All right, see you for that.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to yet another episode of Kill James Bond. As a reminder, it is currently the winter of content, so you do not have to be a patron to hear these episodes, these bonuses, these specials that we are putting out. But that doesn't mean we're going to forsake our patrons. That certainly doesn't mean that I'm going to sit here and not read out £15 and above patrons' names, and those are Christine Fox, Amanda Comet, Fawkes Winchester, Gustavo Lira, Jack Holmes, Payne McCalla, George Roack, Thomas Oberhardt, Nick Boris, Yarrick, Nate Amori, Harriet de Kock, Coconut Crab, Corios, Benno Rice, Kit Devine, Library Hitman, Beef Crime, Callan Burney, Jonathan Gerdes, Jack Drummond, Max Gamenhart, Kentucky Fried Commie, Hell Bloodhands, J. Martindale Top, O. Lysamesh, Jonathan Siegel, Big Titty Goth Girl, Mothman, Final Bond Girl, Harrison Fuller, Trip, Commissar Jen, Sydney Steckel, Tiger Otakuch, Ali Out of a Closet, Pauline, Will You Marry Jenna, Saphira Lucifer, Danny Potter, Turfs Eat Shit and Die Alone, Zoe Shepherd, Elizabeth Cox, Finn Ross, Emily, friend of the show, Alfredo, Quinn Valeri, I Make Devon, Say This Out Loud, Wolfie, Big Old Boy, Ryo Leal, Al Irwing, Lucy Keeley, Josh Simmons, Lauren Bastin, Millie, and Bon LeBon. Thank you, each and every one of you, for helping this podcast exist. Kill James Bond is Alice, Abigail, and Devon. Our producer is the wonderful Nate Bethay. Our podcast art is by Matty Lubchansky. And our website is by Tom Allen. See ya.